Hello, hello, hello. All right. Good morning. I mean afternoon. All right, we're going to do the hands thing. So get ready, get your hands ready. How many people use Vue here in production? There we go. And this is to make sure you're awake. How many people are tired? Yeah, it's been long. Me too. But I'm excited because the next talk after mine is really friggin' cool. So let's do mine. I tailor my talks to the people in the room. So when I originally wrote this talk, I wrote it because I was building a library. I was building a component design system. Hands. All right, again, hands. How many people are in a Vue 2 to 3 migration? Yeah. Is it fun? No? Yeah? Yeah, no, it sucks. So my case is, I think, actually the worst case of a Vue 2 to 3 migration. And I'll show you my repo structure in a hot second. Are people building apps? Are we building apps or libraries? Shout it. Apps. All right. So this talk, we're gonna change gears from what I planned. These were the questions I planned to ask. So a little bit about me. I had a really good introduction. I work full-time in open source at Ionic on the Stencil compiler. The Stencil compiler is supposed to be an agnostic way that you can build web components, TLDR, build web components, and then ship to multiple different teams, different frameworks. Sounds cool. So team A, B, C, and D can all write Angular, React, and Vue, and the design system team doesn't have to care. They can write in this little meta language. That's what Stencil does. I've been there like 4 weeks, so that's all I got. Previously, I worked at Cypress. I worked in open source. Have people use Cypress? Shout it. Yeah, woo. And I built the component test runner. Also did the Faker.js core thing. And I've been around the Vue.js ecosystem for a hot second, 3-4 years. And I'm now a solid JS contributor. I love reactivity. So that's me. And then I did a brief stint in user space again. So I went from Cypress for 2.5 years in open source full-time to Path AI in Boston, actually in Cambridge. I call it fake Cambridge because I'm from the US, and you guys might all be from here. So in user space, as I call it, building apps is different. And I felt like I wanted to reconnect. I wanted to reconnect after being in open source for so long. I was like, what are the real problems people face? And the answer is Vue 2 to 3 migrations. I joined in July 2022, and I've spent most of that time, up until the last 4 weeks, in user space trying to migrate from Vue 2 to 3. So I have a lot of opinions. So my problem was I had many teams, many consumers of the component library I was working on, and we needed to upgrade to Vue 3. And we needed to, and this is a distinction I will make very clear why in a second. We were a med tech company. You know, we had all of the regulations that the US likes to place on med tech, which is less than the US, less than what happens in Europe and other places in the world. But this is the repo structure. We have 4 web apps. Seems nice. We have 1 shared Vue lib. And for each little box is a compilation step using Vite or Webpack or Vue CLI or Jest for testing or Playwright for testing. It keeps every option because it was built by people who are not front-end developers. And that's fine. I was like, if anybody can detangle this, like, I think I can do it. Again. And the reason this looks like this is because the FDA in the US requires you to by repository delineate the different requirements. You know, actually the way this thing actually works is you take all your code for each Vue web app and you put it on a USB stick. Yeah. You put it on a USB stick and you have somebody review your code and tests. And they do it. They don't cursorily looks good to me. They give code comments on your tests. They're like, I joked, I was like, if somebody ever gives me code comments on Cypress component tests on the thing I built, I don't know how I'm going to feel about that. So this is my problem. This isn't the ugliest slide. This is the ugliest slide. And you might be like, what the heck are these colors? Well, each box is a repo. Each color is a team. And as we know, teams release at different cadences. And so when you're thinking, you're at the bottom. I am at the Vue component library, red. I am this solo team. We had 7 repositories, 5 teams, 25 engineers, and 4 products that all had separate release cycles. And that sucks. That really sucks. Because it's unrealistic to expect each repo in the middle, right, our blue and yellow, and then at the end, little green boxes, to maintain long-running Vue 2.7 and Vue 3 branches. We didn't even consider Vue 2.6. We were just like, all right, Vue 2.7, this is where we're going to start. Because we know that that's the closest to Vue 3. There are reasons for that, find me after. So Vue 3 is end of life too. What should companies do? It depends. Do you have to care about security patches as much as we did being in medtech? Maybe. If you have not looked at the migration docs for Vue 2 to 3, recently, they have changed, and they have much more detail than they previously did. And I'm talking in the last 3 months, 2 months. So, stepping back, literally stepping back, I wanted a component library that could be actively developed with confidence. I wanted to ship a button with Tailwind. I wanted to ship a button with Tailwind that could be developed, and then afterwards didn't require a big migration effort from all of those nice repositories we talked about or the middle libraries. A humble goal, I thought. It was not. But I tried. I was like, okay, we're going to ship something called, I made a little template. It's open source. It's called Petite, and it's a project structure for component library authors. Because ideally, actually, another audience participation situation here. Have you, during the course of your Vue 3 migration, noticed that some repositories have just stopped supporting Vue 2 and just cut over to Vue 3? Yeah? Yeah, you feel it. Yeah. So TLDR, what I wish that we would do in the future is when we're shipping libraries, we want to make a monorepo. We'll get there. And we want to symlink the source directory. This is my genius plan. It was not genius. And we want to reuse the build and test tooling to make sure that when we cross-compile a library, like let's say Vue Popper or whatever, that the tests and build tooling would test against both user versions. I'll explain why. And finally, we want to deploy the thing. Cool. So step 1, make a monorepo. I choose PNPM workspaces. I think it's the only sane choice right now. And then you see this little source thing here with the arrow. If you've ever committed a source link to GitHub, that's what that looks like. And it looks like that. If you open it up, that's the code. And I have a root package JSON that lets you dev as a library author again against both versions. And this is my idealistic, what I wish would have happened situation. Source code. Ideally, looks normal. This is my example. I may live code, I may not, depends on time. So on the left, you have your script setup flavor of JavaScript. Options API would work too. So long as you write it in a way that works for both Vue 2 and Vue 3. So if you're writing, let's say the emit function here with update model value and input, ideally it should work. Backing, moving forward. So reusing the build and test tooling. This is the most important part, is to get everybody to reuse the build tooling, right? If you're using something like Tailwind or Uno CSS, when you compile your library down, you want to do it to both, right? You want to reuse your Tailwind config in both targets. You rely heavily on your test environment to ensure it works against these multiple user versions. And most libraries actually don't do this. Most libraries stop at unit tests. They don't ensure that the API works against target user version 2.7, target user version 2.6, 3.3. Like, the test infrastructure for libraries could be improved, to put it lightly. And you will use runtime utils or build steps to support multiple things like model value, etc. These breaking changes we have. So let's make sure it still works when we're developing our library, when we're developing our component. I'm not going to say design system because that's separate. When we're developing our component library, we want to make sure it still works. And we want to reuse the tests, demo time, that exercise the usage and not the internals. Do people use Vue test utils? Yeah, great. Do you use the emitted function on Vue test utils? Don't. I have opinions. So let's take the counters component test. This happens to be written in Cypress. I work there. I don't really care what you use. The point is that you're exercising the component by clicking on it. Line 11, where I say assertions, I'm going to show you what that looks like. Same point, slamming it home. Backwards compatible means that the API contract should be the same. So if you have a counter component, it should support vModel regardless of the target user version. Min and max should still be numbers. Yeah? Yeah. All right. What do we got? Time? Where's my guy? He's supposed to tell me I'm fine. So I have a repo structure. I have packages, which is a PNPM workspace root, and I have two folders, libvue2, libvue3. Libvue2 has a source directory, but it's not actually libvue2. This is technically, even though this little path thing is like libvue2, it lies. It lies, because if I say, hello, Vue.js, and I go to the Vue3 one, this is how Symlinks work, right? We're in counter view. It's like, hello, Vue.js. So you might guess what I'm about to do. I'm going to write code that's backwards compatible. Again, this was the dream for me. This is like the dream. So I called this repo template Petite. It's on my GitHub. I'll show you the link at the end. But we're going to develop in Vue 2. And we're going to develop in Vue 3. This is Cypress, if you've never seen it. I built it 2.5 years of my life. All right, so we have it open in Canary, and we have it open in Chrome. Ignore the little Cypresses, they're Electron apps. It's okay. We're going to click on counter.tsx, and we're in Vue version 3.2 here. We can count up to 10. Oh, this is small. No, we're not doing that. 3.2. And we can count down to 10. I have a demo component because somebody gave me the feedback that it's better to write in SFCs for demos instead of JSX. I don't really mind either way. The important part is this. This is how you should use said counter component. You should pass it a min and max and a vModel. Have people done things like this before? Yeah, me too. All right, so in our counter demo, I print the Vue version just for kicks to make this demo look prettier. But the thing I really care about is the counter. I want to make sure the counter works across Vue 3 and Vue 2. Vue 3 can go up to -10. Vue 2 should also be able to go up to 10 and -10. So you can tell we're in Vue 3 because of this tiny text here, tiny text, and this nice big text. But Vue 2, boop, is in 2.7. But you'll notice that the test is failing, and that's a bummer because it means that this component that we've written is not Vue 2 compatible. It's Vue 3 compatible, and that's cool. But ideally, our consumers, oh, come on, Zoom. It's not zooming. I swear I did this like a million times. All right, it's big enough now. Oop. Okay, view 2, view 3. Counter component here does not work, and that's sad because we want our user stuff to work in multiple versions. So let's figure it out. You can see we have model value. This is how you define the model in view 3. And back in the day, where the day is most days for most of you, we have value. And the way we're going to fix this is saying we have value. It's basically the same. And with a lot of the stuff Evan was talking about, by the way, this is going to be a lot easier to define in like view 3, view 3.3 and beyond, right? We can have prettier defined props, syntaxes. And we're updating model value, but what we really want to do is update, what do we want to do? How do we make it view 2 compatible? Update value? The way you write custom view models, input. And we're emitting model value down here on increment and decrement. Speak up. What are we doing? We're doing input. I'm going to do input here. And again, like this is the ugliest way to do this. This is terrible. But everybody here understands abstraction. And there are patterns to make this look less ugly. Great. And so now, if I reload, I should be able to click. Can't click. This is what I get. Oh, it's because I didn't do change. Isn't it change? It is change. Nope. Oh, Jessica. I wrote this demo this morning. Yep. Shit. If anybody wants to pair program with me right now, feel free to yell out what I should do. Change? Oh, I remember. You know what it is? I'm only taking counter here. Props.value. Or 0. Reload. Nope. And it was right. Okay, I was right the first time. Change. Sad panda. I'm usually very good at this, actually. I'm pretty decent at live coding. It's one of the few skills I prize in myself. And I practice this too. Save it, run it. Nope. Nope. I think this is the first time I've ever had it go wrong. Usually, what? Model value is defaulting to 0. Model value is defaulting to 0. I think it's something to do with. The counter change events. Input and default. Okay. Input and default. Put the default back. Line 9. Put the default back. You know what? I did it earlier. I should have done this. I got nervous on stage, and I think I took my correct version. Yeah, I took my correct version. We can figure out what it is later. But I had this in my back pocket the whole time, and I forgot about it. That sucks. All right, let's add the data test ID real quick. Test ID is counter, count. And here we go, view 2, please. Thank you. I'm actually sweating. I am physically sweating. That was so stressful. All right, and then the Vue 3 version also works. And one of the only things that, so hairy breaking change number 1 in Vue 2 to 3 is vModel, right? Hairy change, not so hairy, it's pretty obvious, is to delete the wrapper divs. Yeah? Because Vue 3 gave us partials, right? Template partials. Vue 2 did not. So Vue 3, Vue 3.2.39, very happy. Vue 2, very sad. Vite is very, very sad right now. Because component templates should contain exactly one root element. And this is the kind of thing that you can catch with a test infrastructure like this. So backing up the bus, it's Q&A time. I am over time. I'm going to zoom very quickly through this. Deploying your packages. I want my library to support Semver, right? I want to have breaking changes between components, between versions, and I don't want to couple to Vue's next major version. You may have noticed in the ecosystem, some people just change and stop support for Vue 2. They were just like, nope, my library only supports Vue 3 and up. And they did that with a major version bump. That's an option, one package at library/Vue. Or you can do end packages at library/Vue 2 or Vue 3 or solid. But I want to deploy multiple versions of my monorepo and target different versions of Vue. So I would implore library authors not to break your users in the future. I would implore application developers to understand how difficult it can be. It really sucks, and I went through that as a user, right? I changed jobs to really, truly experience the problems that we're all facing. And I would implore library authors to invest in tooling that lets you build, test, and deploy libs against multiple framework versions. If you want to see the repo structure, feel free to look at it. That's the most valuable thing in there. Thank you all. Thank you to the following people for helping me talk through the architecture in, oh my goodness, it must have been July when I first started the pain. Daniel Rowe, who we all love. Thorsten Lundberg, been a core team member for ages. And Johnson Chu, I'm going to mess it up, built Valar, does a lot of work for the Vue community and answered a ton of questions for me. Things like how do you write a backwards compatible define vModel, right? So you don't have to write all that ugly code I was writing that I messed up for like 10 minutes. Tidbits of advice for application developers. Reduce the number of layers. Why? If I wasn't in a med tech company, I wouldn't have had so many boxes. I would have been like monorepo, ship it. Because that would make CI much easier. The tool chain is what gets you. It's not the Vue runtime. Vue runtime I had up in a day. It's the tool chains and differences in the tool chain between Vite, Vue CLI, Jest, etc. That's what really gets you. Vue and Vue 3 migration, stable. Everything else, that's where the pain is. So, good advice. That's it. Thank you.